Hi everyone, this is Nadia. I am an occult specialist that uses spiritual intelligence to empower entrepreneurs into a healthy, empowered money story to live a balanced life. And today I want to cover around about a sedation that I had with the galactic spirit Clauneck, and about moving into a new financial frequency and upgrading your life thus far. So as you guys can see, I'm all wrapped up. It is freezing in London. I'm sat in my car and I'm hoping it warms up quickly, and I'm going to take a short drive to run errands as I usually do. I did that in my car videos in summer. But I really want to talk about almost like a money baseline, or like how to upgrade from where you're currently at. So I'm gonna drive off, and I want to talk a little bit about that today, because there are a lot of people who have come to me and asked me questions about it, and so many of you guys have asked me questions. I thought I would do a video on it. Okay, so a general money baseline is per se what we can afford, I guess, or where we're at in society, or where you're at with your station in life, so to speak. People, I mean, it depends. Most people do not have big dreams. I often say that they don't have big dreams just because they're not allowed to dream big, or when they did have a dream, their parents usually squashed it down. Their dad or their mom laughed at them, their family laughed at them. It usually is a family problem, and then it sort of bleeds out into your friends, your blah blah, this, that. So I would say that, at least across the scope of this winter, what I would say is that it's useless keeping friends with people who are not going in the direction that you're going in. That sounds pretty harsh to say, and that's not to say that you can't find things in, I guess, in common with people. Of course you can, but there is a certain tangent that if you are ambitious, you are looking to move towards, and it becomes very difficult to be in association with a person who is, I would say, for lack of a better term, not ambitious. So Clauneck and I have had this conversation many times over, and he has always said to me that in order to increase your money baseline, or your financial frequency is what he usually addresses it as, you have to start shopping. I like using that because I'll try and give examples in this video as well. You should try and shop in places, or try and be in places that you aspire to. You may not normally go to those places, you may not normally do that. Get out of your comfort zone. So I'm guessing if you go to a supermarket, or you go to a restaurant, and there is a set amount of money that you usually spend. And for instance, if you do like a basket shop, right? So you got your basket and you're going around getting groceries. The next time, get a cart or get a trolley and put all your groceries inside it, and then go around with the cart. Obviously there's more to fill up. Basically nature abhors a vacuum. And it can be small things like that that people miss, like how to upgrade yourself. What happens is, Clauneck says that people become overwhelmed, like they try and jump too fast for things. Like, for instance, if a person is making, I don't know, I'm giving an example, a person's making 100,000 a year. Now, this can be in personal income, this can be in revenue of your business. That's the first number that comes into my head. Telling that person to dream at 10 million might be a little bit of a stretch, or 20 million, or whatever it is. But on some degree, they'll still be like, okay, well, I've got to 6 figures at least. This is doable. Clauneck has often said it, and so have I, that 6 figures, there's something very miraculous about 100,000 plus. Because when you hit 100,000 plus in anything, it's like a whole new world that opens up to you. Like, you start to see that in your sales, you start to see that in personal income. You think, oh, it's doable, because there's something. Even before myself, before I hit, before that number, there were some things that were obscure to me. I couldn't really see it, and the moment I saw myself get to that level, I thought to myself, oh, okay, wow, so this is available for me. I can do it, and it's hard to explain it to people And it was definitely very difficult for me to explain it to myself or to anybody, especially when you're not at that level or you've not reached that. So, you know, the lower numbers can feel like a big slog, and the higher numbers are actually easier to deal with, bizarrely enough, and I don't know as to why, basically. So a financial baseline is something that lots of people struggle with because they want to upgrade their life, but in trying to upgrade their life, what ends up happening is that they jump, like Clauneck usually says, they jump too quickly. So they want to move from this to this, but the mind cannot comprehend it. So he has often given me a saying, and it's a very common English saying: little hinges open big doors. Most people don't get anywhere in life because they can't dream big. Their thoughts and ambitions are like a rat chasing cheese. There is no polite way of me saying that to anybody, but that's really the truth. So in order to achieve whatever it is, if you are ambitious, you're gonna have to get around people for whom ambition is already normal. I start to wonder, I mean, if people don't have ambition, I just wonder what are they doing in this world? Like, why? And ambition is not always financial. Okay, yeah, it is tied into finances, but it is not always it's not always financially based. But this video is to do with it. It can be you want to get to a certain destination in life. Of course, you're going to need money for your dream. Money and access go hand in hand. So your baseline, or sort of your frequency, as Clauneck calls it, is start to move away from the places you are currently at, because obviously your vibration is currently where you're vibrating. If you're going to a certain supermarket, energetically it's telling you, well, you're kind of at that level, right? And that may not be the case. You may be making a lot more money than that, but it's just handy. So I think being intentional with your vibration is really important. And it's important because it's a sense of self-value and self-respect that you've got from yourself, and it's about creating that sense of value for yourself, and not what your family tells you, not what your sister has told you, not what your mom has told you, not what your cousins tell you. It's what do you want. And that's always very difficult for us, because we are socialized as human beings to constantly be accepted and liked by people all the time. Hence we don't set the boundaries that we need to be setting, because, well, what's the other person going to think? I don't know. Maybe they can figure out what they're going to think in the first place, right? So setting this financial frequency, in essence, in your mind is always like, okay, well, this is the place I shop, and this is kind of like my frequency, my vibration. Now, you can have something, maybe a car. Let's give an example that a car is X amount of money. It's way out of your league and your budget. You're like, boy, there's no way I can afford that. But that's okay, because you're moving towards that vibration, meaning that you will have opportunities, people, places, things, circumstances, people that will put you onto that stuff. You know, life is mysterious. You really never know what's going to happen. Duchess Buna's always said that to me, and you have to stay open to receiving what it is you want. It might come in a very roundabout and a very bizarre manner. Like, you may not even know how it's going to come about, but it is going to come about. So Clauneck has often stressed to me that when we want to move from one tax bracket or one echelon to the other, it's about being mindful of what's coming ahead and not what's in our past. Judging by if my past is anything to go by, I should not be where I am. I should be maybe struggling somewhere, having very little money, stuck in government housing or whatever. My past is very checkered, and it's very, I've seen a lot, right? But I did not accept whatever circumstances were laid out for me, because that was not my life. I was forced into things that I did not want to be at. I would have not chosen that for myself. Who wants to choose that for themselves? But I said to myself, you know what, there is a certain destination I want to get to in life, and I can either talk about it and keep moaning about it, or I can find very tangible and practical and pragmatic ways to get to where I want to be. It's an interesting journey, and it's a journey that's always very important to make, because it's, yeah, of course there's money involved with it, and I am talking about a financial frequency or a baseline, but more than anything, it's the person you end up becoming. The person I was when I was making X amount in Spartanite is not the person I am today, and surely I will not be that 5 years from now. Who God knows where I will be or what I'll be doing. I don't know. I can't see that far into the future. Despite the fact people might think, oh, you're psychic, you can see everything. Well, the future is ever changing, and we can shape and mold our destiny to our will. You know, you're not a victim of your destiny. You write your own destiny and make sure you're always holding the pen for it. So he's always reminded me that your financial baseline is very important, because it gives a very clear picture to you about how much you feel probably comfortable spending in a place without, you know, I guess having any issues with it, so to speak. So for some people, spending £50 is like, we wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Spending 500 is you won't bat an eyelid. Spending 5,000 is you won't bat an eyelid. Your baseline, or whatever, you know, Clauneck usually explains this to me, your frequency is whatever you feel comfortable spending at, and you wouldn't even care, like you wouldn't even bother and think, well, okay, yeah, cool, whatever. If you have to think about what it is you're spending, that's not your baseline. Your baseline is anything you don't have to think about. It's whatever is sort of insignificant for you. And in order to create that, like, some people will be intimidated. For instance, I give an example of a friend of mine who actually flew all 3 sections, so and also flew private as well. And it was less about the money and more about the experience and the vibration that comes along with the experience. So he obviously started from coach, and then which is economy, and then he went towards business, basically. I think he spent about 4,000 flying in business, if I'm not mistaken, and then I think and that was returned, by the way. And then in first class he spent 4,000 one way, something like that, basically. And the interesting part out of all of it is that he saw some very interesting things that happened with him. Basically, he almost like kept a diary. I remember him telling me, I don't know why this place is so crowded today, crazy, but oh well. He kept a diary, and once he was done flying first class, he has a brother that lives in Geneva in Switzerland. So I'll take this off and I'll complete my video. So he's got a brother that lives in Geneva, and so he decided to fly private from London to Geneva, and we had this whole conversation, and he said to me that it is really nothing to do with money. And I remember he wrote this down. He had like a really nice notebook, like a really nice leather-bound notebook, and he was writing stuff in it. And he said it's really nothing to do with money. It's the baseline that increased and improved for me. And each time that he stepped up, like he said, the biggest step up for him was not changing commercial to private. It was more about changing economy to business. And I was astounded when he said that. And I said, why do you think that is? And he said, you really get to see at an energy level how little people have been trained to value themselves. And I said, that's profound. And I think I've had a lot of these conversations when I've gone to the spa with Clauneck. Like, he just shows up, and you know, it's always like, it's less about me getting a facial or massage, it's more about the lesson behind it. And that's how the Goetic spirits have trained me, basically. It's less about the money, it's more about the lesson behind it. Because once you've acclimated to the lesson, you understand things that are going on. So moving your baseline, what can you do? It's more about looking at the things that you might feel hesitant to put money down for. It's not the fact that you don't have it. there's a hesitance of, should I not? It's one thing saying this is totally out of my budget. That I understand. But then there is also like it's like a hesitance is what comes to mind. Like, okay, this thing is worth X amount and I might have a quarter of it or half of it, but I don't have everything in full. The biggest thing I've seen with people is how easily people's mentality lives in defeat, it lives in lack, it lives being a loser, basically. That's not because I like saying that or it's polite to say that, so to speak. It is astounding how easy people take no for an answer. It amazes me, which is probably why those people who are very comfortable taking no for an answer are A, where they are at, and then B, also they're very surprised with people who do succeed and are ambitious, because we just learn to take, I'm not a fan of taking no for an answer. That's not because I want to impose my will on people or anything. If somebody has said no, a client it says it's out of their budget, whatever it is, I'm just like, okay, that's fine. What do you feel you can afford? What is easier for you? It's not because I want to force people to spend with me. It's not because I want to force people to like me or be friends with me. That's not the case. I don't take no for an answer from life. When life told me that I would never be active again, I would never have a great life of my own, life challenged me and said, you have fibromyalgia. And for anybody that has an autoimmune condition, it becomes impossible to live. Like I often say this many times, I often had a very sedentary lifestyle, and it was very hard for me to get up. My body was like literally swollen up all the time because my lymphatic system was very damaged after the jinns left me. And many people know my story of how I had 4 jinn on me. They were placed on me, and I had to get rid of them. And the damage they left me, it was really repairing. It was like starting to build your house again from an earthquake. And I could have said, you know what, I give up. You know, I was very young at the time. I was 26, I still remember. And I could have said, you know what, I've just given up with my life. I'm not obviously going to be able to do much with myself. And I can't work a proper job because, well, who's going to want somebody that's practically struggling with their health all the time? I could have made a lot of excuses. And all of that is viable because in employment, people really don't care. They just want you there. So I said there have to be other ways. I loved working for myself. It's a freedom that is hard won and hard bought in many areas. And I said, I will not accept this disease in my body. Yeah, fine, I'm struggling with it, but I will not accept it into my body. And because I did not accept it into my body, I came to find that I was actually, I tell the story all the time. My spirit guide was able to find me a shaman who is absolutely amazing, and he drained it out of my body. He's at a very high level, and he meditated and he drained it out of me. Because I didn't take no for an answer. It took my body at least about 6 to 9 months to start adjusting. And now I'm fine. Obviously, sometimes I still struggle with what the damage left my body with, but I have tons of energy. I can do my stuff. I don't have something that's holding me back all the time. I give an example of that because that ties into people's baseline a lot. Your health is a big, big factor. The more vitality and the more strength you have, it's just easy to bring money in because you're going to be available to do stuff, okay? Which is why I always tell people to take care of their health. There is nothing bigger in this world. Your health is your wealth, really. And I say that from experience. So there are tons of people who, they would look at impossible circumstances or what their mind would consider impossible and think, nah, there's no way I can, get out of this situation. I can break free, I can do this. But where there's a will, there's always a way. And with your financial baseline, if there is a desire to improve, what a lot of people don't understand is that money is an expander. I speak this from experience. I speak this from observation. We're working with a lot of people. Money is definitely an expander. What it does is it expands your view sight. It expands your ability to see the world from like a bird's eye view, like looking downwards. Most people have a very very tortoise mentality. Like, I love tortoises. I've seen them. I saw a tortoise that was like, I think it was about 150 years old when I was a kid. Like, my dad showed me and I was just amazed. Like, the tortoise was just outliving all of us. It was amazing. But one of the interesting things is that you have to remember a little tortoise is going at its own speed and it's looking at ground level. And think of a giraffe. Think of how much more a giraffe can see than a tortoise. And what happens is that when the more money you're able to bring in, what happens is that it expands you. And lots of people struggle to move up into that baseline, and they struggle to move up into the baseline because they don't quite know what to do with the money coming in. If you do not have a plan for where that money is going to go, don't expect it to come in. In a very crude fashion, I will put it this way, because this is the best way to describe it. There is a reason that women generally, innately, who have not done their work, and even some of us who have, are, I don't know if I could say attracted as much as feel secure in a man who is sexually experienced. And I say this because when a man is sexually experienced, there's no fumbling around. I don't want to go into those lines because this is obviously a financial topic I'm covering. And I will cover a topic on that at some point later down the line. But he already knows what he's doing with you. He already knows what he's doing with your body. It's exactly the same thing when it comes to money. If you are already a good custodian of money, if you already know what you're doing with your money, you already know what's happening, it's going to be very easy to pull in that money because you already have a direct, infrastructure of where it's going. Not like, oh, I have all this money, but I don't know what I'm going to do. What do most people do? They will waste the money. They will buy stupid things with it. They will squander it. It's like lottery winners. I always say that. So in conclusion, I always say, and Clauneck reminds us over and over again that if you want to move from one baseline to another, essentially what you need to do is start mentally shopping in those places and retain yourself at that high frequency. When you've retained yourself at that high frequency, you will start to manifest on that frequency and not where you're currently at. For instance, if you are driving a car and I don't know, whatever money you've paid for it, but you want a car that's 10 times more, but you know that it's not in your budget and you can't get it. What you have to do is become a vibrational match to that car. So who would you be if you drove the car that's 10 times more? How would your life look different? What would you be doing on a day-to-day basis? Start doing that stuff on a day-to-day basis, and it's going to be very easy for you to bring that car in because it's just rewriting your whole story, basically. It's just saying, well, this is me and this is who I am now becoming and this is who I've now become. So in essence, if you want a $10,000 dress, some people think it's frivolous, some people think it's extravagant. I just think if it's a dress and you want it and you want to enjoy it. We only get to be in this life for once. We may incarnate again, but enjoy your life as is. Who do you have to be in that dress and find it normal? Most people will not want to be in that dress. I want to say the dress costs more than most people's mentalities and they're not going to feel comfortable. This video is not for everybody. This video is not for people who like making excuses and like whining and moaning about their stuff because people are chemically addicted to nonsense. I generally don't tend to have conversations especially about moving upwards or, breaking those frequency barriers, especially if I don't see evidence of a person going anywhere, because that they'll say they're doing it, but there is no evidence of them actually moving up into that frequency. So what happens is you can maybe go to like a store that you normally would not buy things at. You can go buy the cheapest things over there. The fact that it is already in your vibration, it will mean that more of it will start. You'll start, at the first time, it will be like, oh, this is a bit much, right? But it will like have broken a barrier for you. And then you want to start to be like, oh, this is normal. And then it's like, oh, I don't know, I spent £10 on a chocolate bar. Which sounds a bit ridiculous for a lot of people watching this. But for 10 people on a chocolate bar, they won't even bat an eyelid. They'll be like, yeah, okay, cool. In fact, that's a bit cheap, you know? And once you're able to break out of those frequency barriers, that's how you're able to move upwards very quickly when it comes to money. This whole budgeting, this whole traditional financial thing does not work for most people, because most people get stuck in their mind all the time. And when they're stuck in their mind all the time, they're unable to manifest, because they're trying to manifest, or they're trying to call in. Manifestation is just calling in. It's asking something to come in based on the frequency you are at. So you will manifest. You might want something better, but you will manifest based on where you're at. So hopefully that covers it, because Clauneck has extensively always talked to me, and Clauneck has always said that in order to move upwards, you're going to have to change your frequency. Most people don't want to invest in themselves. They see it as an expense. The nonsense in their life is an investment, but putting anything towards that is sensible and that makes sense, they don't want to hear. You can't tell most people anything, and they expect to do something once. I think in the second reference part of closing is people expect to do something once. For instance, they go to the gym and they work out once and then they feel pumped up, but they cannot keep up with it. They're not consistent. So 2 months go by, they haven't gone to the gym and they've been eating trash, and then they complain, oh, the gym doesn't work. No, it's nothing to do with the gym. You don't work. That's the problem. If you, and I've often said this about magic over and over again, magic, sorcery, working with spirits, if you are not willing to put the hard work in, don't expect the spirit to meet you halfway. They won't even care. They will be like, you're lazy. Clauneck always says, I don't serve lazy people with victim mentalities. He doesn't. Even if you summon him, and he probably won't even show up. There's a lot of people who say, oh, I tried to summon Clauneck, he doesn't come. He needs to see something tangible. Clauneck's like a very successful investor. It's like, yeah, all right, everybody approaches me to invest in their business. What is it you can actually give me? It's not to say that Clauneck wants anything from you in that sense. It's more he wants you to recognize your own potential, and he wants to help you along. He is a fantastic guide. He's a fantastic spirit to solicit advice from, but he's very matter of fact when it comes to finances. And if he gives you homework or he tells you to do something, just go do it. Just don't you can obviously question him and ask him a little bit more, but don't be like, oh, well, you know, and don't bring your excuses. The amount of times spirits have said to me, don't bring us your excuses because we don't care for them. Okay, so that in a nutshell is your money baseline and moving up your financial frequency to get to where you're currently at. It's not going to be overnight. It may take you a little longer than what you expected, but guaranteed you will get to where you want to be if you align yourself with the person who's already living at that frequency. All right, like, comment, share, subscribe. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please throw them in the chat box below, and I will see you in the next round. If you are in any Western country, enjoy the snow, enjoy the cold, because it is freezing. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Take care. Bye.